Kia ora, I'm Sherry Kinnear and these are the latest New Zealand Herald headlines. Police are out in full force this morning as protesters occupy Parliament's front lawn, calling for an end to vaccine mandates for a third week. Police officers have been instructed to take a zero-tolerance approach to any abuse, intimidation or violence against members of the public. Vehicles parked around the area peaked at around 2,000 on Saturday, with about 800 of them illegally parked. Meanwhile, authorities could be given additional powers to deal with the protesters. Commissioner Andrew Costa said declaring a state of emergency in Wellington is one tool police may need to turn to if no resolution is reached. He says they're aiming to explore all reasonable options before resorting to confrontation to clear the crowd. Former police negotiator Lance Burdett says it's no surprise the protest has gone on this long.
It's going to take a little bit of time to break this protest up. People have been held down essentially for 2 years now, and this is happening globally in countries that you would never ever expect it.
New Zealand could hit 10,000 daily cases of COVID-19 earlier than previously anticipated as the Omicron variant continues its rapid spread. Given the rate at which cases are doubling, there's a chance 10,000 cases may be recorded in a week's time. But Council of Medical Colleges Chair John Bonning says the current home isolation rules are overkill and needed to be cut to 3 days for vaccinated people without symptoms. He says many public health measures needed to stay, such as vaccine mandates and mask wearing, but there was some sensible middle ground that could help to keep the country moving and prevent workplaces having staff at home isolating. Meanwhile, the outbreak has put growing pressure on the country's schools. Last Thursday, there were 320 education facilities dealing with active COVID cases, 177 in Auckland alone. They include 50 early learning centres, 196 primary, 17 intermediate and 57 secondary schools. With a further surge in cases over the weekend, it's likely the next data release will show more schools affected. Secondary Principals Association President Vaughan Keogh says as more staff isolate, schools are having to turn to other options of teaching.
For some of us, however, we've flipped to online learning. Others are sort of doing a roster home type thing to try and keep the doors open and cover for staff who might be isolating.
Rapid Antigen Tests will be available at all community testing centres in Auckland from today. Testing site staff will determine whether a person requires a rapid antigen test depending on whether they meet certain clinical criteria. The criteria includes factors such as a person's symptoms and whether they're a close contact. Those who meet the criteria will be able to test themselves at home with a RAT, but will need to return to a testing centre for a PCR test if they're positive. And in world news, the Queen has tested positive for COVID-19. Buckingham Palace says the 95-year-old is experiencing mild cold-like symptoms, but adds she plans to carry on working. Her Majesty is expected to continue with light duties at Windsor Castle over the coming week. A statement from the palace says she'll continue to receive medical attention and will follow all appropriate guidelines. And those are the latest New Zealand Herald headlines. For more and to stay up to date, head to nzherald.co.nz. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. To stay up to date with all the latest news from the New Zealand Herald, click the subscribe button below or check out one of the videos here and head over to nzherald.co.nz for more details on these stories and more.